My name is Rachel Calloway. I'm 32 years old. On the afternoon of March 4th, I was being loaded into an ambulance outside the Hargrove and Associates building with a ruptured appendix and internal bleeding when the paramedic put my parents on speaker. I heard my mother's voice, calm, almost bored. Is she conscious? Yes, ma'am. But she's in critical. Then she can wait. Lily is in the middle of a crisis right now. Rachel is strong. She'll be fine. My father's voice in the background, muffled. What happened? It's Rachel. She's fine. Lily needs us. They were 22 minutes away. 2 hours and 47 minutes later, when my father finally walked through the door of ICU Bay 4, he stopped. His hand went to the door frame. His face changed. Standing beside my bed, holding a cup of coffee and a legal pad, was someone he recognized. Someone he had every reason to fear. And that's where this story really begins. Let me take you back. I graduated from the University of Illinois with a degree in civil engineering in 2015. 2 years later, I had my professional engineering license, a job at Hargrove and Associates in downtown Chicago, and a salary of $71,000 a year. I thought I was set. My parents had a different idea of what that meant. The first request came 8 weeks after I started. My mother called on a Thursday evening. Her voice had that particular softness she used when she needed something. Rachel, honey, your father's truck needs new brakes. The mechanic says $600. You know how tight things are with Lily still looking for work. My sister Lily was 27 at the time. She'd been looking for work, as my mother put it, since dropping out of her second community college program 3 years earlier. She lived at home, paid no rent. My parents covered her car insurance, her phone bill, her streaming subscriptions, her occasional shopping trips described as necessities. I sent the $600. Because that's what you do when you love your family. The second request came 3 weeks later. Then a fourth. Then it wasn't requests anymore. It was expectation. By the time I'd been working for 2 years, I was sending $900 a month to what my parents called the Family Support Fund. I told myself it was temporary. In April 2019, my parents asked me to co-sign a car loan for Lily, $24,800, a used Chevy Equinox. Lily needed reliable transportation to get to job interviews, my mother said. I sat at their kitchen table and looked at the paperwork. Who's making the payments? We all are, honey. Your father and I will handle it. We just need your credit to get her approved. It's just a signature. I should have asked for a payment schedule in writing. I should have asked to see their bank statements. I should have said no. I was 26 years old and I wanted to be a good daughter. So I signed on line 18. Within 4 months, the first payment was late. By month 6, I was covering the full $347 every month. Lily had been to 0 job interviews. The Equinox was mostly used for drives to the mall and to pick up takeout. I started keeping a spreadsheet in 2020. Not because I wanted to, because my therapist said I needed to see the reality clearly, in numbers. Without the fog of guilt my family was very good at producing. Monthly Family Support Fund, $900. Lily's car payment, $347. The one-time emergencies that came 2 or 3 times a month, averaging $280. I'd stopped counting those individually. Too painful. By March 2024, the spreadsheet showed $86,400 transferred over 5 years to my parents and sister. That doesn't include the co-signed loan, which still had $18,200 remaining, entirely in my name, entirely paid by me. My husband Daniel had seen the spreadsheet once, 2 years earlier. He'd sat quietly for a long moment. Rachel, this has to stop, I know. Do you? Because knowing and stopping are 2 different things. He wasn't wrong. But family is complicated in ways that are hard to explain to someone who grew up in a home where love didn't come with a price tag attached. I want to tell you about 3 moments before I tell you about the ambulance. July 14th, 2021. Hargrove and Associates held a firm-wide recognition ceremony at the Marriott on Michigan Avenue. I'd been selected as Engineer of the Year, the first woman under 30 to receive it in the firm's 3-4-year history. I'd sent my parents an invitation 6 weeks in advance. They confirmed. They'd be there. The ceremony was at 6:30 p.m. I kept glancing at the door. My husband was beside me. My 4-year-old daughter Sophie was backstage with our neighbor Mrs. Tran. My parents' seats were empty. At 7:15, when they called my name, and I walked to the podium, I looked out at the audience and found the 2 empty chairs at table 6 immediately. It took everything I had to smile. I called my mother at 9 p.m. "Where were you?" "Oh, Rachel, we're so sorry. Lily had a terrible night. Her and Brendan had another fight, and she was just inconsolable. We couldn't leave her like that." Lily's boyfriend Brendan had broken up with her and gotten back together with her 11 times over the previous 3 years. Each breakup was a crisis, requiring my parents' full presence and attention. The firm's awards ceremony, apparently, could not compete. The second moment. October 2022. Sophie's second birthday party at our apartment. 12 people coming. I'd spent 2 days cooking, decorating, the works. My parents had confirmed. They arrived 40 minutes late, stayed for 35 minutes, and left because Lily was having a panic attack about a form she needed to fill out for a new apartment application. Sophie didn't understand. She kept asking where Grandma and Grandpa went. I told her they had to help Aunt Lily. She went back to blowing out her birthday candles. She was 2 years old and already accepting their absences as just how things were. Third moment. January 2024. I was promoted to senior structural engineer, youngest woman in that role at the firm. My boss, Patricia Webb, the vice president of engineering operations, threw a small celebration lunch. She'd invited my parents herself, called them personally, told them what the promotion meant. They didn't come. Lily had gotten a bad performance review at her job, the first job she'd held longer than 3 months in 6 years, and needed emotional support. She was fired 2 weeks later anyway. Back to looking for work. Back to being a reason I couldn't have my family present for anything that mattered. I didn't tell Patricia why they didn't show. I just said they had a prior commitment. She looked at me for a long moment and said nothing. Now. March 4th. I'd been at the office since 7 a.m. We were in the final push on a bridge renovation project in Peoria, and I'd been running on 4 hours of sleep and convenience store coffee for 3 days. By noon, I felt wrong. Not tired wrong. Wrong. A deep, spreading pressure in my lower right abdomen that I kept dismissing as stress. By 2 p.m., I was sweating through my shirt in a project meeting. Marcus, one of the junior engineers I managed, leaned over. "Rachel, you look really pale." "I'm fine. Let me finish this load analysis." I was not fine. At 2:34 p.m., I stood up to get water, and the room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the conference table. Marcus caught my arm. At 2:48 p.m., I was on the floor of the hallway outside the conference room. The pain was no longer pressure. It was a blinding, tearing thing. I heard Marcus calling my name from very far away. At 2:43 p.m., someone called 911. "I need to tell you about the emergency contact situation because I know what you're thinking and you're right to think it. Daniel should have been my first contact. He is my husband. He is my next of kin. He had been my emergency contact at that job since the day I was hired. But in November 2023, HR sent a system update notification asking all employees to re-verify their emergency contact information in the new portal. I updated mine. Entered Daniel's cell. Hit submit. The system had a back-end error that month. I found this out later that failed to save roughly 40 updates, including mine. When the paramedics arrived and asked the office for my emergency contact on file, the old record pulled up. My parents. The paramedic, a woman named Tanya, mid-30s, called them in the ambulance on speaker while I was drifting in and out. "Mrs. Calloway, this is paramedic Tanya Rhodes with Chicago Fire. Your daughter Rachel has been taken by ambulance to Northwestern Memorial. She has severe abdominal pain, signs of internal bleeding. We need you at the hospital as soon as possible. Is she conscious? She's in and out, but this is serious. We need. What exactly is wrong with her? We believe it's a ruptured appendix with possible peritonitis. She needs surgery. Can you come now? A pause. A long one. Lily is having a situation right now. Is Rachel in immediate danger? Yes or no? Tanya looked at me. I could see her working through her response. Ma'am, she needs emergency surgery within the... Then she's in good hands. Call us when she's out of surgery. We'll come when we can. The call ended. Tanya was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she looked straight ahead and said, very carefully, I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes. It's not your fault. She called back twice more. My father answered the second time, said they were handling a family situation and would be there soon. The third call went to voicemail. At the hospital, the ER team moved fast. Dr. Anisha Patel, the attending surgeon, reviewed my scan and was direct. Ruptured appendix, infection spreading. We need to operate now. Standard procedure is to get family acknowledgement for non-life-threatening timing surgeries, but given the progression of infection, this is not waiting. Meanwhile, Marcus had gotten to the hospital. He'd ridden in a cab behind the ambulance because he felt responsible. He sat in the waiting room and called Daniel repeatedly. Daniel was in an all-hands meeting with his phone silenced. His company had a strict no-phones policy during those sessions. Marcus left 4 voicemails, sent 6 texts. My parents received 7 calls over 90 minutes from the hospital, from Marcus, and later from Patricia, who had been notified when the paramedics came to the office. My father answered once, said they were on their way. They were not on their way. They were at my sister's apartment on Lakeview, 22 minutes from Northwestern, because Lily had received a letter from her landlord that morning, stating she owed a $280 late fee on her March rent, and was, according to my mother, absolutely falling apart. $280. I went into surgery at 3:55 p.m. Daniel made it to the hospital at 4:40 p.m. His phone had died during the meeting. He'd come out to his car to charge it, seen 22 missed calls, and driven 40 miles an hour over the speed limit the entire way. My parents arrived at 5:48 p.m. I was still in surgery. I woke up in the ICU at 7:12 p.m. Daniel was in the chair beside me, his tie loosened, eyes red. He was holding my hand with both of his. Hey, I said. My voice was sandpaper. He made a sound that wasn't quite words. Then he pulled my hand to his forehead and just stayed there. Sophie? With your mom and dad? His parents. I called them first. That distinction sat in the air. Your parents, he said carefully, arrived around 6. I know. They asked the nurse if there was a parking validation because they'd spent $18 at the garage. There's a free shuttle from the south lot. He looked at me. I know. My mother had come into the recovery room briefly before they moved me to the ICU. Her first words had been, Rachel, you look terrible. And her second had been, did you know your father's truck has been making a noise? We should add that to the account this month. I stared at the ceiling of the ICU. I was full of antibiotics and post-surgical pain medication and something else entirely. Something very clear and very quiet. I'm done, I told Daniel. He didn't ask me to explain. He just nodded. But I needed him to understand the rest of it. I needed someone to understand all of it. Not just the hospital. All of it. Daniel, I said. Get my laptop. I need to show you something. He brought it the next morning. I opened the spreadsheet. He sat for a long time looking at the numbers. Then he closed his eyes. $86,400 in 5 years. Plus the loan. Still $18,200 left. He ran his hand over his face. Rachel. I know. Does Patricia know any of this? No. I think she should. I lay back against the pillow. That's not why I want to show her. He looked at me. The hospital gala is April 19th. Hargrove hosts it every year. It's a fundraiser, donors, board members, the partners, everyone. Patricia told me last month I'm being recognized. Youngest senior engineer in firm history. They want me to speak. And your parents were invited? I sent them an invitation last week before any of this. They RSVP'd, yes. 3 seats. Daniel was quiet. I want to tell the truth, I said. All of it. In front of everyone. He didn't tell me I was being impulsive. He didn't tell me to wait until I was off pain medication to decide. He just looked at me for a long moment and said, What do you need from me? Everything. The 3 weeks between the hospital and the gala were full. Patricia came to see me on day 2. She brought flowers and a project update, and she sat in the chair Daniel had slept in the night before and looked at me very directly. "The hospital called the office looking for family contact," she said. "Your emergency contact in the system was your parents. By the time I found out what was happening, you were already in surgery. I tried calling them." "How many times?" "3. Your mother picked up the second time, told me you were a drama queen and that you'd exaggerated injuries your whole life. Then she asked if the firm's insurance would cover your medical bills or if you'd need to dip into personal savings." I wasn't surprised. I wish I had been. Patricia put her coffee down. "How long has this been going on, Rachel?" I told her. The full version. The $86,400. The loan. The missed ceremony. The missed birthday party. The missed promotion lunch. The 7 calls on March 4th while I was in surgery. She was quiet the whole time. When I finished, she said, "I want to help you. Tell me how." "I have a favor to ask." She didn't hesitate. "Anything." Over the next 2 weeks, I did what the story in the original video called compiling evidence. I downloaded 5 years of bank transfers. I pulled the loan documents. I screenshotted the text messages, the requests, the manipulation, the gentle-voiced financial extractions. I printed the hospital logs from March 4th. The 7 call attempts. The times. The responses given. I also found something I hadn't expected to find. In going through my mother's Facebook while I was home recovering, I discovered a pattern of posts going back 2 years. March 2022. "So proud of our Lily, who is volunteering at the food pantry every Saturday. Real compassion runs in this family." Lily had gone to the food pantry once to pick up a box of donated goods for herself and had not volunteered. September 2022. Lily has been accepted to Northeastern Illinois University for the spring semester. Such a hard worker. Lily had looked at Northeastern Illinois' website for approximately one afternoon and never submitted an application. November 2023. Our family is so blessed, both daughters doing wonderful things. Rachel has a nice desk job and Lily is really stepping into her purpose. Desk job. 11 years of school and professional licensing for what my mother described, publicly, on Facebook, to 340 friends and family members, as a nice desk job. And then, 4 days after my surgery, "Please pray for our family as we navigate some stress. Lily has been such a rock for all of us. Rachel's health scare reminded us what matters." My health scare. The ruptured appendix. The emergency surgery they arrived 94 minutes too late for. A health scare. I added the screenshots to the folder. The folder had 186 pages by the time I was done. April 19th. The Langham Hotel. The Hargrove and Associates annual gala. I wore a navy dress. Daniel wore the suit he'd bought for our wedding rehearsal dinner. My in-laws kept Sophie for the night. Before we left, Sophie ran to the door and wrapped both arms around my legs. "Mommy, you look like a princess." "Thank you, baby." "Is Grandma coming?" My mother. I mean Daniel's mother. "Yes, sweetheart. She's already there." "What about your grandma?" I looked at Daniel. "I'll explain when you're older," I told her. "You'll understand then." She accepted this with the particular grace of 5-year-olds and went back to her cartoon. We arrived at 6:15. The ballroom held 180 people. Crystal light fixtures, round tables with white linens, a string quartet near the entrance. My colleagues found me immediately. "Hugs. You look incredible. We're so glad you're back." The warmth of it nearly undid me. My parents arrived at 6:40. My mother in a blouse I'd Venmo'd her $150 for the week before the surgery, before everything changed, before I had decided to stop. My father in his good jacket, Lily in a dress I recognized as one she'd claimed to have bought herself last year, which I now knew I'd inadvertently funded through the family support account I'd finally fully reviewed. They waved at me from across the room like nothing had happened. Like we were a normal family at a normal event. My mother touched her hair and smiled. My father gave me a thumbs up. Lily was already taking photos of the centerpieces for Instagram. Patricia appeared at my side. "Ready?" "I've been ready for 3 weeks." She looked at my parents across the room. "And them?" They think tonight is an awards dinner. She picked up her champagne glass. Well, they're not entirely wrong. Dinner was served. I ate approximately nothing. Across the room, my parents were chatting with another couple, laughing, perfectly comfortable. My father stole 2 dinner rolls from the breadbasket. My mother was explaining something to the woman beside her, using the same soft, lilting voice she used when she needed you to feel sorry for her. At 8 p.m., Patricia walked to the podium. She spoke for 3 minutes about the firm, about excellence, about what it means to build something that lasts. Then she said, "I want to tell you about one of our engineers." My mother leaned toward my father. "Is this about Rachel?" I kept my eyes forward, Patricia continued. "This engineer came to us 8 years ago. She has worked on 34 projects across 6 states. Last year alone, her structural analysis work on the Peoria Bridge project saved the city an estimated $2.3 million in projected maintenance costs. 3 months ago, she was taken by ambulance from this office with a ruptured appendix and internal bleeding. She was in emergency surgery for 3 hours. She was back at her desk in 19 days because, as she told me, she had a project deadline." Light laughter from the audience. Patricia paused. "This engineer is being recognized tonight for more than her engineering work. She's being recognized for something harder, for showing up, even when the people who were supposed to show up for her did not." My mother whispered something. I didn't catch it. Patricia looked out at the room. "Rachel Calloway, will you join me?" I stood. My legs felt distant from my body. Daniel put his hand on my back for just a second. "Go." The walk to the stage was 18 steps. I counted. The applause started before I got there. My colleagues, the partners, the junior engineers I'd trained, standing, some of them. I gripped the microphone and looked out at 180 faces and found 3, at table 9, that were frozen. "Hi, I'm Rachel. Most of you know me from the Peoria project or from stealing your coffee in the break room." Scattered laughter. "I have a few things I want to say tonight. Some of them are going to be uncomfortable." I thought about not saying them. I thought about just accepting this recognition gracefully, going home, and continuing to stay quiet. I've been staying quiet for a long time. I clicked the small remote in my hand. A screen behind me lit up. March 4th, 2:43 p.m. 911, called by coworker Marcus Ellison, following collapse of Rachel Calloway. 3:02 p.m. Paramedic contacts emergency contact on file. Ronald and Carol Calloway. Response: "She can wait." A murmur moved through the room. 3:09 p.m. Second call to Ronald Calloway. Voicemail. 3:24 p.m. Call to Carol Calloway. Answered. Response: "We'll come when we can." 3:31 p.m. Call to Ronald Calloway. No answer. 3:44 p.m. Call from Hargrove and Associates VP Patricia Webb to Carol Calloway. Answered. Response: "Rachel exaggerates." 3:55 p.m. Rachel enters surgery. 4:40 p.m. Husband Daniel Calloway arrives. 5:48 p.m. Parents arrive. 94 minutes after surgery began. I let the room sit with that. That is a timeline. 7 calls. 94 minutes. The reason for the delay? Click. I looked at table 9. My sister had received a $280 late fee notice from her landlord. The silence was complete. I clicked again. Loan agreement, April 2019. Co-signer, Rachel Calloway. Borrower, Lily Calloway. Amount, $24,800. This is a loan document. My parents asked me to co-sign a car loan for my sister 5 years ago. They said they'd make the payments. This is the payment history. Click. 5 years of statements. Every payment in my name. Total paid by Rachel Calloway, $21,940. Total paid by Ronald and Carol Calloway, 0. Someone at a table near the front said something under their breath. I clicked through the next slides. The monthly transfers. $900 for 60 months. The one-time requests. The running total. $86,400. My mother's hands were flat on the tablecloth. My father was staring at his water glass. I clicked to the Facebook screenshots. This is my mother's Facebook page, March 2022. Quote, "Real compassion runs in this family. This post is praising my sister for volunteering every Saturday at a food pantry. My sister went to the food pantry once to pick up a donation box." A few people near the front leaned in to look at the screen more clearly. September 2022. My sister was described as accepted to Northeastern Illinois University for the spring semester. She never applied. She has not been enrolled in any educational program since 2018. She currently lives with my parents and has been unemployed for 7 months. Murmurs. The uncomfortable kind. The kind where people are recalibrating what they thought they knew. And this. I clicked to the final slide. A photo. Me at the firm's recognition ceremony. July 2021. Engineer of the Year. I'm standing at the podium. The 2 chairs at my family's table are empty. That's me. July 2021. Receiving this firm's highest individual recognition. I invited my parents 6 weeks in advance. They confirmed. They didn't come. My sister's boyfriend had broken up with her that afternoon for the 9th time. That required their full presence. I gave that speech alone. I paused. I want to be honest about why I'm saying this tonight. It is not to humiliate my family. They are doing a good enough job of that themselves. I'm saying this because I have a daughter. She is 5 years old, and she is watching me. I looked at my father. He was finally looking back. She is watching what I accept. She is watching what I fund. She is watching what I call love. And I want her to learn from what I do next, not from what I've done for the past 5 years. So, as of tonight, the monthly transfers stop. The loan is being removed from my name. My attorney filed the paperwork on Monday. My parents are now solely responsible for the remaining balance. My mother pushed her chair back. This is outrageous. You are embarrassing this family. Patricia stepped to a second microphone at the edge of the stage. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Mrs. Calloway, your daughter was in emergency surgery. You were 22 minutes away. You stayed away for 94 minutes because of a $280 late fee. I want you to understand that the people in this room, your daughter's colleagues, are going to remember that number for a very long time. My father stood. We're leaving. That's your right, Patricia said. But this event is for Rachel. And she's not finished. He sat down. I want 2 people to come up here for a moment, I said. Marcus Ellison and Dr. Anisha Patel, who was kind enough to join us tonight. Marcus came first. He was 24, one of the junior engineers I'd been mentoring for 2 years. He was wearing a tie that was slightly too wide, and he looked nervous, but he walked straight up to that microphone. I called Mr. and Mrs. Calloway 4 times on March 4th, while Rachel was in the ER. He kept his voice even. The 4th time, Mr. Calloway picked up. I told him Rachel had a ruptured appendix and was going into surgery. He said they'd been trying to get there, but Lily was in a bad place. I said, Mr. Calloway, she needs surgery right now. He said they'd leave in a few minutes. He paused. I've worked for Rachel for 2 years. She came in on a Saturday in November to help me fix a calculation error that would have delayed a project. She didn't tell anyone. She just fixed it and told me to learn from it. She has never once not shown up for something that mattered. And the people who were supposed to show up for her couldn't leave a $280 late fee situation. He handed me back the microphone. Dr. Patel spoke for 3 minutes. Clinical, precise, the way doctors are. She described the severity of a ruptured appendix with spreading infection. The standard window for intervention. What happens when that window is missed? She did not editorialize. She did not need to. When she stepped down, the room was utterly still. I took a breath. I'm not angry, I said. I was. I processed a lot of that in the hospital, and in the 3 weeks since. What I am now is clear. And clearness is something I haven't felt in 5 years. I looked at my parents one more time. I spent $86,400 supporting a version of this family that only existed in my mother's Facebook posts. I co-signed a loan that became my loan on the day I signed it. I missed my own recognition because my presence at it was less important than my sister's 9th breakup. And when I was in an ambulance, The answer was, she can wait. I set the remote down. I'm not waiting anymore. 31 people were on their feet before I reached the steps at the edge of the stage. The applause was the loudest sound I had ever heard in a room that size. I walked back to my table and Daniel stood, and I let him hold me for a moment, while the room was still clapping, and I thought about Sophie at home in her pajamas, watching cartoons, not knowing that her mother had just done the hardest and most necessary thing she'd ever done in her life. My parents left without speaking to me. Lily knocked over a water glass on the way out and didn't stop to clean it up. 3 people I had never met came up to me afterward. A woman who'd been funding her brother's lifestyle for 8 years. A man who'd co-signed 4 different loans for his parents. A young woman, maybe 25, who just gripped my hand and didn't say anything. Daniel drove us home. Sophie was asleep when we got there, arms flung wide, her nightlight making a soft pink glow across the ceiling. I stood in her doorway for a while. The following Monday, my attorney confirmed the loan removal was processed. The $347 monthly payment would fall to my parents starting May 1st. When I told Daniel, he opened his laptop and started looking at flights to Portland. He'd been talking about a trip for 2 years. We'd kept putting it off. Things were always too tight. 3 weeks later, Lily sent me a text. Just one line. "You think you're so much better than us." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. "I think I'm done. There's a difference." I blocked her number. My mother called twice from a neighbor's phone. I didn't answer. My father left a voicemail. His voice was very quiet, very measured, and it said, "Rachel, what you did was wrong, and one day, you'll understand that." I saved the voicemail, added it to the folder, which now sat on my desktop under a file name I called simply, "Done." I went back to full work hours on April 28th. The Peoria project was ahead of schedule. Marcus had handled 2 client calls entirely on his own while I was out, and had done a good job. I told him so in front of the team. He looked like I'd handed him something. In May, I set up a college fund for Sophie. First deposit, $4,000, which was approximately what I'd been routing to my family that same month for the past 5 years. It felt like correcting a math error, like finding the line where the numbers had gone wrong and finally drawing a clean figure. One evening in June, I was driving Sophie home from her dance class. She was in the back seat in her leotard, drinking a juice box, kicking her feet against the seat. "Mommy," she said, "do you miss Grandma?" She meant my parents. I thought about that for a moment. "I miss who I thought they were," I told her honestly. She considered this. "Were they nice before?" "They were nicer when I gave them things." She was quiet. Then she said, "That's not real nice." "No, baby. It's not." She went back to her juice box. The streetlights were coming on. The city was orange and gold at 6:45 inches the evening, and Sophie was humming something soft and tuneless in the back seat. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt the particular lightness of something finally, completely done.